welcome to Tocca Talks, Joanna Forest.
Thank you,
Hi.
Victoria. Hi.
I'm so excited to have you here because
I'm excited.
because we've not really worked together, but we've been in the same concert once. But
We
we've never,
did.
do you remember when that was?
I was actually trying to work it out.
Oh.
Gosh, 2016, maybe, all that time ago.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it
So
was, I think it was October 2016, the
I was trying
Songbirds
to,
concert.
exactly, in London. I was
Yeah,
trying to figure it out with Mary Jess the other day, and we
yeah,
said it's probably around 5 years ago, but we weren't sure, so we didn't want to, put a date on it. But now Joanna says it's 5 years as
26,
well.
October 2016
Yeah,
is what I
so
think.
you also say about 5 years, so that's what we think.
Yeah,
But we never really had a lot of time to talk at
that's
that point
right.
because it was
No.
so much with the concert going on.
Yes, of course. Those concerts are manic, aren't they? Turn
Yeah,
up, sound check, and before you know it, you're on stage doing the concert.
yeah, exactly. It was one of those concerts. I think we were like five different singers doing it,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that. Yeah. So that was fun anyway.
really fun.
Yeah, I hope we get to do it again soon. I mean,
Oh,
right now, no one's allowed to do anything, so it's super boring. But we can do this.
we can do this. We can have lovely chats.
Yes,
Exactly.
we can. So, where in England are you from? We met in London, but I don't think you live there, right?
I don't live too far from London. I live on the
Okay.
outskirts, in a
Okay.
place called Loughton,
Okay.
which is actually Essex, but it's where East London meets Essex, really. So I'm on the tube
Okay.
here.
Oh.
Got a London telephone number on my landline, right
Ah,
near the M25. But we're also right in the middle of Epping Forest as well. So it's really lovely, actually. You feel like you're in the countryside, but it's
okay.
only a really, really short ride into town.
Okay. So, how long is the tube ride or train ride?
It's about 25 minutes to Liverpool
Oh.
Street. Yeah. And
Okay.
maybe about 35 minutes to Tottenham Court Road.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is really good. I've lived in Loughton all my life. So still
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
Still there.
Still there.
Yeah. And I obviously Googled before doing this interview because I only know you as the classical crossover singer. But you've obviously also done musicals and shows and been on the West End. So I'm super excited to hear, a lot more about your career and what you've been doing. How did you start singing? Because I know that you're classically trained and you went to Italia Conti.
That's right.
But how did you start out? Have you always been singing?
Always been singing in terms of singing around the house, singing in the car with my family going, shut up, we'd rather have the radio on. Like we'd always just be singing all the time. But I didn't know if I could sing. I just knew that I really enjoyed it.
Mm,
And in my primary school, it wasn't like I was picked for solos or, or stood out and someone said, oh, in assembly, she can sing. It wasn't like that at all. But then I saw on the TV, which massively inspired me, the Song and Dance, which was Sarah Brightman doing the one woman show, Tell Me on a Sunday, and
mm,
then Andrew Lloyd Webber's Variations as a dance part with Wayne Sleep for the second half.
mm.
I was like, wow, she's singing, but she's also acting and telling a story at the same time. This blew my mind and I thought it was amazing.
Mm.
And I really, really wanted to be an actress so
Oh.
much. That's where my journey as a performer started. I wanted to act.
Oh.
And I did some research, which in those days was quite difficult because we didn't have the internet and
I
things
know.
or smartphones, things just weren't at our fingertips. But
Mm,
what I learned was that I should probably, if I was going to have any chance at all, should go to a stage school,
mm.
which meant not having a normal education and spending half the day doing vocational subjects and academic subjects only the other half of the day. And so I announced to my mum and dad that I wanted to go to a stage school. And they were really surprised because I don't come from a performing family at all.
Mm.
They were like, what's this now? Like a stage school? I'm not sure about this. I don't think so. I'd been going on like a Saturday morning, like to a local acting class. And I think they just thought it was, it wasn't maybe something to consider full time. But they made an agreement with me. I was allowed to audition for Italia Conti. And if I got in, then I could go, which was really exciting. And at that time, there was very few of these schools around. There was another one called Sylvia Young's, which I can't even remember now, but it was Italia Conti was the one I was focused on. And I couldn't believe it. I hadn't sung in front of anybody really properly. So to do it in an audition situation, I had to sing, of course, something from the song and dance. So tell me on a Sunday. And I couldn't believe it. I got in. So they must have seen some potential. And then when I started at Italia Conti and started to have singing lessons, proper singing lessons, I knew that I really, really enjoyed it. But interestingly, they weren't classical at all. No, they were very, very musical theatre based. So the classical side of things really came much, 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 much later. Yeah. And so it was there where I started. There was an agency attached to the school. So you were sent out and you got to do really exciting things like adverts and TV programs while you're still at school. We got to do things like the Royal Variety Performance and the Children's Royal Variety Performance, which is like
how old were you when you started this school?
11.
Right.
And then I did my GCSEs there at 16, and then I did the sort of the grown-up musical theatre course after that. And it was always wanting to act. We did dancing, but I knew that dancing wasn't my passion, if that makes sense. It was just I was always a bit like, oh yeah, it's ballet again. But it's singing now, or it's drama now. And at that time, I feel like it really set me on my way, because you leave with a CV, really. Even though you were very young, it still means that you've had experience of knowing what it's like to work in a professional surroundings and environment.
So really so you started out with musical theatre. And because I also read that you've done just pure acting as well, and some TV, and so was this all during school?
No, some of it was during school, and then I got a really exciting job when I left, which was in the West End. It was a play written by Michael Palin called The Weekend, and it was about a family and all the dramas and the intricate relationships between them over a weekend. And it toured some lovely theatres around the UK, and then it opened at the Strand Theatre. Proves how long ago it was, because now it's called the Novello Theatre. But for me, that was like a dream come true, to have a main part in a West End show when I was 18. So that was absolutely brilliant. And I've also done plays for the Shaw Society, and I've done some repertory theatre as well, which is fun, because it's very like learning loads of lines very quickly. 1 week it's this play, then the next week it's this play, and you've got to completely forget that one and become this whole new character for this one. But I think you learn a lot. So actually, the world of singing as myself, and the world of classical crossover is still sort of fairly new to me, really. So I still feel, in the world of the music industry, I still feel like a newbie, really, and that I'm still learning about this whole new world, really.
But would you still do plays or TV or stuff, musical theatre, if you got the chance? Or are you like completely focused on your classical crossover career at the moment?
I think it'd be wonderful to be in a TV program or a film, like being a singer. Like, how good would that be? Like in some like big blockbuster. Of course, I'd like to use my singing skills I'm really enjoying leaving the world of auditioning behind me. That is a little dream. Goodbye
Yeah.
to goodbye to that.
Yeah.
That I'm enjoying. Yeah, I mean, I love being on stage with people, the camaraderie and the friends that I've made. And you're a real team. And the last show I did was Wendy and Peter Pan at the Bath Theatre Royal. And I think I was ready for something different. And I think, of course, if the right part came along and it was like offered to me on a plate, I'd be like, this is interesting. But I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now. I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying what I'm doing now. And I feel that it's for me, it's more rewarding, this path and this new focus.
Okay, so how did that come about that you decided to go from like theater and stage work to starting like your whole own sort of solo career as a singer?
I realized that I was enjoying the singing more and more. And it's the parts that were always presented to me were really sort of similar. For example, I was just saying that my last part was Wendy and Peter Pan. And sometimes you sort of think, really grateful to have been able to play those parts for so long. But I think I was ready to sort of show me. I did a whole year, still grateful for the opportunity massively, in like a big show, Dr. Dolittle the musical, and it was touring to all the big huge venues, and it was big and colorful, and it was with amazing performers, and I played the main part. But he was the 10-year-old boy that went on the adventure, and it was really good fun. And I'm grateful, out of all the girls who auditioned, they chose me to be the 10-year-old boy, and obviously thought I was convincing at that, but I felt like it was time to just find another path, really. I feel like I'd exhausted it. I'd done so much touring, and I think maybe the older you get, you don't really feel like being away from home as much. And yeah, I just remember saying to my husband, when he came to see me at Bath, oh yeah, did you enjoy the show? And he was like, yeah, I really enjoyed the show. And he was like, you know, what would your ultimate ambition be? I was like, oh, I think it would be to like sing as me, actually. I think that's what I want to do. And he was like, I think that's what you must do. But, you know, I didn't know anything about the music industry, so I didn't really know how to go about it. But what I've realized is there is definitely not a right or a wrong way. And everybody has their own path, and you're not doing it wrong. You're just doing it differently, you know. And you think, oh, you know, I think because in musical theatre you're taught, right, you do this, you do this, you do this, and ultimately you should probably, this is the path to get a job. Whereas the music industry, there aren't rules like that. You can,
Well, not anymore, at least. You know, I think maybe there were different rules in the 80s and 90s when the big record companies were still sort of in charge of the whole business. But that has massively changed because of the internet and the possibilities that you have with, you know, both social media, but also the possibilities you have to release music as an independent artist. You're not dependent on someone telling you that you're allowed to release something because you got a record deal. I remember like in the 80s, I mean, I was obviously very young then, but you know, the main goal for people who wanted to be in music was to land a record deal.
Yes.
That, you know, if you landed a record deal, that was massive. And I mean,
Yes.
I guess it still is,
Yes.
because you get a lot of money behind you and all that stuff, but it's not necessary.
I think the advantage of having a record deal is that I sort of think of them as the magic people. And the magic people are the people who just get you out everywhere. If you have a record deal, it's like everybody will know who you are. and they will know what you're about. And I think even if you don't continue on collaborating with a record company, at least you'll have had that amazing platform to have announced yourself to the world. That's what I think you sort of get from a record company.
It's
I don't.
faster for sure, I think,
Yes, yes, yes. It's
Yeah.
like a fast track, I think,
Mm.
because they have so many ins with the right marketing and publicity. I mean, they're big, huge machines. And I think as an independent artist, you're constantly up against that type of thing. You know, they get playlisted on the radio stations, and there's some huge, huge advantages. But there's
Right.
also advantages of being independent as well, I think.
Yeah.
I never even dreamed of sort of approaching a record company because I still felt like I was so new and I was experimenting, and I was finding my way and
Right.
finding what it was all about.
Yeah.
I do think there's the other thing about being independent is you're master of your own destiny. And I do think after being independent, it must be quite hard maybe to have to go along with certain things perhaps you're not comfortable with, or perhaps it's,
Right.
you know, I think I do like, for the first time actually, I feel like I'm in control of everything. You know, I think because I trained as a child, one of the main ways of getting a job was to really look like you were listening and you were in the moment, and that you were very nice to work with, and that you always took the note, and that you really listened. And then they will use you again because they know that they can rely on you. And
Right.
your agent is God. Like literally drop everything. You've got plans, but there's an audition, drop it. You've got a holiday and a little job comes in and your agent wants you to do it, drop it. You know, I feel like it's very freeing not to be in that situation. Oh,
Yeah.
this my agent, I've got to call them back. Drop the whole world, because if you don't, somebody else will. That's the
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
It's so competitive. I feel like the music industry, of course, is massively, hugely competitive, but it feels competitive in a different way.
Mm.
That's what I
Yeah,
think.
and I think being independent, it's also up to you, which in a lot of ways makes it more fun to work, in my
Yes,
opinion, because you
yes,
know you're doing it for yourself and for your own dream and for your own, you know, journey or whatever. I think one of the things that I've enjoyed a lot throughout my career, because I'm also quite um, I get bored very easily. So I like to have a lot of different things on my plate and a lot of different things to do. So I like doing shows sometimes. I love producing, which I'm doing a lot more now.
exciting.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Actually, I didn't know when I started out, because it was an accident that I became a producer, to be honest with you. Um, but I didn't know then that I would like it so much. I mean, right now I feel like that's the path I'm going down and where I really want to spend my time in the future. I mean, right now everything has come to a complete stop. But once we get going again, I really enjoy producing. I enjoy like putting together the complete puzzle of a project. But I still love being on stage. So I just find it very rewarding to do all these different things. And I don't think that I've released my last album yet, for example. It's just that sometimes I feel like I need to do something else for a while to get inspired to
yes,
record something or do something. So for me, at least, it's been really good to be able to do all different things, like go on a show, produce something, record an album, tour with concerts, you know, like just do a bunch of different things. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with this whole COVID situation, you know, feeling stuck and not really being able to do all the different things that I want to do. Therefore, you know, creating this interview show or, you know, like a bunch of other things
yeah,
digitally, or yeah, I need to find ways to be creatively I mean, I need an outlet for all the things that go on in my head, basically.
Yeah, of course. And you're right. I think we're all having to get used to this COVID situation and what it means and what it means in the future, and that it seems to just be
Yeah.
going on and on.
How many albums have you released on your
two
own?
two
Two.
albums. Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so, okay, so let's talk about like, when did you decide that you were going to record an album in the first place, like your first album? How did it all happen?
I hadn't really thought about recording an album. I was still finding my way in the world of trying to get as many opportunities to sing as me, saying yes to everything that charity concerts and any place I could get an in. And then me and my husband, we put on a show at the Palace Theatre in the West End
Oh, wow.
for a brilliant charity called Copperfield. And it was so fantastic because it was sponsored by the Sun newspaper, which means we got some great artists. So Paul Potts, so lovely, agreed to sing with me, which was amazing. We had Joe McElderry, who's like an X Factor winner, Louise Dearman, who's a brilliant West End star. We had Francis Raffel, the first Eponine, Ridian. We had all these amazing, amazing voices. And I also sang a solo, and with the orchestra, stood on that stage singing. I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. It's not part of a show. This is what I'm meant to do. If it's possible, this is what I'd love to do. And then we were looking for opportunities where I could sing. And we came across the most talented, amazing pianist, conductor, producer, Robert Emery. And we were originally talking to him about some live performance opportunities. And he just happened to say, you know, have you made any sort of recordings? We had made some recordings at a various local recording studios, 2 backing tracks. That's as far as I'd got. That was my that's just what we'd sort of been doing in terms of recording. And he just suggested it might be nice to have to make an album. And it started off as 3 tracks. 3 tracks to be a like an extended EP, I guess. And after Robert had suggested it, we were like, can you help us with this? Can it be you who does it? He's like, okay. And then we were so happy with the tracks that we just thought, shall we make it into an album? Should we just do some more? So the first 3 were with the Prague, the City of Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. And then that was the first 3. And then when we decided we were going to extend it, we did that in London. And then it was the absolute hugest learning curve in the whole world of how do you get an album out? Like, you have to learn about distributors and marketing, artwork, like a whole world of so many things that were just really, really alien to us. But it was really exhilarating at the same time. It was really fun because it was we loved the album so much. It was just really exciting for people to, you know, to get it out there for people to listen to it. And I really felt like we'd done something a bit different. I really did. So because
was it original music, or was it cover songs, or what was on your first album?
Yeah, so we had some original music, we had covers of things like David Bowie, Life on Mars. We had a Beatles song on there. We had a Slade cover on there.
Oh.
It was a fine line because we still wanted it to be classical chart eligible.
Oh.
And they're very, very, they've got these very strong rules about what allows it or not. So we had to sort of be guided also by those rules, but also with what we wanted to put on there.
Yeah.
And because, as I was just sort of chatting about, I don't have a normal, the usual route to classical singer, which I always imagine it might start finding your passion maybe in church or something like that, and then being part of some kind of choir, and then having classical lessons, do you know what I mean, and then going to a conservatoire. Like, that isn't my background. So I felt like this album really reflected that, definitely. And so I felt it was a bit different. And I really wanted it to appeal to people who think they didn't like classical music, but maybe they do. So many people go, oh, I don't like that. Like, I'm sure you do like classical music. Like, do you enjoy the soundtrack to Harry Potter? Or,
Yay!
or you know, or you were playing a video game. Did you like the music you were listening to? That's orchestral. So I think sometimes people think they don't like classical music when they do. And so it's so niche. I just wanted to expand, and I wanted to appeal to as many people as possible, really. And we were just so delighted with the reception that it got. It was amazing. Like, my first album, I just couldn't believe it. And you sort of get a hint of how you're doing with the pre-sales. And we just thought, oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing if we could get to #1 in the classical chart? It would be so fantastic. And on the day of release, we were #1 in the iTunes classical chart, which was really exciting. And then they collate the whole of the week. You've got the whole of the week to wait, from iTunes, Amazon, maybe in independent sellers, and they put it all together. And we're like, oh my gosh. And Alfie Boe was on in Sainsbury's. It was eligible, even though it was an old release for him. But for Mother's Day, he was severely discounted, something like, I can't remember what it was, but at the till, which people were massively just like popping in because they were like, oh, this will be great. And he's so popular. And it was like, oh my God, can we do it? Can we do it? He was #1 the week before we were, because people were just absolutely loving this deal. But then we did it, and it was a absolutely fantastic feeling. It's a real like, that week was just like up and down, with people messaging saying, we've been into HMV and we bought it, and you go, oh my God, yes, that's another sale, thank you. Thank you. And did you want to buy any more for anyone else? And please. And you feel like when you are an independent artist, I don't know if you ever feel like this, but you can feel like you're being really asky on Facebook all the time. Like, hey, please buy this, please buy. So I'm really careful now what I put on my I call it my friends Facebook. I guess that's my personal Facebook. Like, I'm really careful, because I don't want to just keep banging on about, you know, please do this, please do that, please look at this, please do this. But that was when I went all out. I went all out for that week. And it was just amazing, because then it leads to other opportunities, which is really, really fantastic. And then the second album, we went for a completely different track. I was really passionate about bringing music to younger ears, especially as music funding's been cut in schools over here, which is really sad. So we came up with a family adventure, a musical family adventure for the whole family, and just a really lovely album for everybody to enjoy. Had 2 fantastic duet partners this time, Paul Potts, so lovely, and Andy Day, who is a CBeebies presenter, who is like, you know, if you've got preschool kids, he is like the legend, the TV legend over here, but I'd done panto with him twice. So he's my lovely friend. So we did Let's Go Fly a Kite together.
Okay.
And it was just really lovely. And I've been taking my before COVID, rhythm of life workshops into schools, which was really
Oh.
fun because some of these children just won't be taken to West End shows. And if they don't have it in school and they're not learning musical instruments and they're not listening to music, they might be, it's not even about them being so musical, it's just about they're just missing out on something that's hugely creative and could
Yeah.
lead to well-being. And there's all sorts of advantages of music. And it always baffles me that art is always on the curriculum. And to me, I can't really see a difference between art being more valuable than music. To me, they're both equally as valuable, and they're very creative and stimulating. And not every child is going to be an artist, but it can still help use their brain in that way. And then they're ready to go back to maths and English. I don't understand why music isn't treated as valuable, but it's not. And it's a real shame. That was
Yeah.
that's what my second album was all about. And the other releases that I've done have all been singles that I've been asked to either work on or create, which I've done in between. So last year, even though it was COVID times, my single that I collaborated with Olga Thomas, that got to number one in the classical chart, which was so exciting. And then World in Union 2020, which was such an amazing opportunity, not only got to number one in the classical iTunes chart, but it broke into the main chart on iTunes, which is something that's never happened to me before, and got to 24, which led to literally jumping up and down times.
Yay.
That was really exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a musical tribute to an amazing best of the best man who died in tragic circumstances. So it was actually a news story at the time as well, which so many people got behind it because it was for his foundation going forwards. So that was I just feel really honored to have been part of that, really.
Yeah.
And also I feel he was also head coach at East Grinstead Rugby Club. When they came to me to ask me to create it, the World in Union, I felt like I had experience now to say, well, we need to get a distributor and we need to do this and you need to do this. Like I actually knew how to help them create the team to get it out there. So I feel so happy I could help them create it.
But I think that's one of the things, when you are independent and you have to do all these things on your own, you learn so much stuff along the way that is not only helpful for yourself, but where you can actually, as you said, with this project, help other people and get music out there. In Sweden, we have several schools that are music schools, which means they have certain amounts of students. They have to audition when they're 9, and if the kids get accepted into the school, they will have choir and music every day on their curriculum. And I went to one of those schools. I think it was probably the mothership of those schools. It's called Adolf Fredriks. It's in Stockholm and it's really famous. But then there have been other schools like that in the last, say, 30 years popping up in Sweden. And we have one, there are several around Stockholm. And it's really interesting because those schools also tend to have the best results with their students. That we have, I don't know how you do it in England, but we have like national tests every year for like the 6th grade and the 9th grade. And these schools are usually at the top of, the the scores of these tests. And I really think, I mean, that it has to do with the fact that they are learning music every day.
Yeah.
So I think it's a real shame that, I mean, we're not being taken seriously. And it's been bothering me a lot during this COVID year, that, you know, we are not seen as essential. We are not seen as, I mean, basically, they're letting us self die. No one cares about our business. You know, they're trying to save everything else, but they don't really give that much attention or help to the arts in any way, shape, or form. I think they're trying, but it's like, I don't know. My company, for example, I think we got about 25% of what we had actually spent on shows that were closed down last year, which means, I mean, if we don't get up and running soon, my company is dead, you know? And I feel like, why is my business or our business so less valued than, you know, some of the other businesses that are getting way more help? And, you know, and it has to do with what you were talking about, you know, with why is music less valued than art? Or, you know, like, who makes these decisions? Because when you look at the results of these schools, for example, that's a very, you know, clear message that the children that go to these schools, obviously they're getting something that the other kids aren't getting. And I mean, of course, they might have great teachers, or, you know, like, I can't tell you for sure. I don't know if there's ever been any scientific studies on this, but there's obviously something um, that makes these children perform better in all the other subjects as well.
I totally agree. You are absolutely right. And when you have evidence
Mm,
like that, it's difficult to argue with that. And I'm completely frustrated like you. I don't
mm,
understand why. One of the schools that I went to, there was a brilliant, brilliant headmistress, and she was telling me that they sing happy birthday, like, you know, when it's a child's birthday, because that's in assembly, because that's the only thing they can offer that doesn't cost anything, and that they're just sort of, you know, using their voices. I went to another school where um as I was leaving, this English teacher was saying to me, you know, oh, bye. And she's saying, oh, she's like, oh, she had this video on, and she was covering PE.
mm.
And she was basically just showing them the video, and they were like going along with it. And I said, oh, that's really interesting that um, you feel comfortable to cover PE, but you wouldn't feel comfortable, because she said it to me earlier, like doing music. And she's like, oh no, I'm not musical. Oh no, 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 no. I was
Mm.
thinking, it's not about that. These are really young children. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
some kind of something that you could do with them. And because you're right, I think it really stimulates and is
Do you do you think that has something to do with um, all these? I'm talking about the teacher who said that, oh, I'm not musical, I
mm,
shouldn't be doing this. Do
mm.
you think it might have something to do with all the, you know, like TV shows, audition shows, where people get, you know, almost bullied for not being good singers, so that, you know, now people are really afraid of even trying?
Yeah, could very well be that sort of culture for everybody to be like an armchair critic
Mm,
probably is making people think, oh, well, gosh, I thought that person was quite good, but I'm nowhere near as good. And everyone's saying that they're awful. So I better never open my mouth and saying, I think it's those
because
talent programs can, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think
I
they,
feel like there's something going on with the culture in general, like not only with the arts, but also with, um, you know, like sport for kids as well. My son, for example, I mean, he's in athletics now and he's doing really well, so he's happy with that. But before that, he was also playing soccer, and I mean, he was enjoying it, he wasn't the best on his team, but he was doing all right. And I think they were playing about two days a week or something like that, for a few hours every like an hour on a Tuesday and an hour on a Saturday or whatever. And then from one year to another, and I will say this, my son is quite young. He will be 10 this year, but at that point he was maybe eight,
Yeah.
7 or 8. And he played for about a year. And then for the next year, they were like, oh, this year we're going to start doing a lot more, like soccer cups. And they are going to have to train 4 days a week. And if you're not at all the trainings, you can't be in the matches. And
Oh.
and I was like, these kids are 8. We're not training for the World Cup here. Can we, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, what
Yeah.
is going on? And I think, I don't know if it's because we as parents or adults are like trying to get our kids, somewhere. I don't know what it is, but I feel like that's happening not only with sports, but with music. It's like, oh, my kid is 7 and he already has an Instagram and look at him singing. And you're like, it's a kid. You know what I mean? Let them just play and do and be whatever. Like, both my children have tried, like, I don't know how many different kinds of sports and how many different kinds of, like, I mean, one day he wants to be, an inventor, and the next day he wants to go into space, and the next
Yeah.
day he wants to be an actor. I mean, why do we need to like start training them in sports or the arts or whatever it is so early on? It's like, it's stressing them out.
Yeah, nothing should be stressful. I feel like there's two extremes. There's like no music education for you at all, none at all. And right, you're literally, have you practiced 10 hours today? Because
Right.
if you haven't, then that's not good enough. It's like, where's the middle ground? There should be a middle ground. Children should be able to experience all kinds of things in their childhood and not have a lot of, that kind of pressure as well. That sounds very pressurized.
But I think I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm just guessing that it has something to do with all these TV shows that are like, what are we watching mostly on TV? I don't watch TV that much, but if I sit down and watch TV one night, most of the shows on TV are some sort of competition. It's either, like Master Chef or Children's Master Chef, or it's a singing competition, or it's a survival competition, or it's just some plain bullying, have as much sex as possible competition. It's like, why is everything a competition? Why can't we just have like entertainment for entertainment's sake? Or do you know what I'm saying? I feel like,
I think
it's been going on for like 20 years now.
Absolutely. And I think we had some competitions over here that were that was to do with finding a lead part in a show. I mean, I loved watching them because it was in conjunction with Andrew Lloyd Webber, so he was trying to find a Dorothy, a Nancy, and a Jesus and a Joseph. And I think those were the ones. And there was about like either 10 girls who were the finalists or 10 boys, and they'd all sing like a musical theatre song. And, obviously one would get worse comments and then, and be out of the competition. But I think what still inspires people to take part in those competitions is once they got to the final, they were all winners and they all went on to have these main parts in the shows. And it was, I mean, talk about fast track, that was just like whoosh. And still now, I mean, those competitions must be about over 10 years ago maybe, and they're still sort of big names in musical theatre because they took part in those competitions.
I mean, I understand it, but it's just, as a culture as a whole, why does every single thing need to be a competition? You know what I'm saying? Like,
is it a little bit like does part of us sickly enjoy somebody going, well, I'm sorry, but your pottery wasn't very good this week, or you haven't groomed
I'm as
pet
guilty
well
as
enough.
everyone else. Like, I love MasterChef,
Yeah.
Like right now,
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Australia's MasterChef, um,
Is it?
because
Is it almost like when people used to watch things like hangings, which we can't even believe, or they used to just watch the crucifixions, didn't they, as
yeah,
entertainment? I mean, do we still have that in us? And we're like, yeah, they're getting bad
maybe.
comments. We didn't think they were good either. I mean, it's just it's not very nice, is it?
No, witch burnings, but in
Yes.
another way. It's horrible. And
Yes,
I
but
mean, yeah, I think MasterChef though that I'm watching is a very kind show.
well, that's nice. Yeah.
You know, and it's a lot of good food on there. So, but yeah, I so in general, I don't watch any of the talent talent shows like Idol or The Voice, or because I just don't enjoy it. Not saying that I don't enjoy watching talent, because I really do, but I feel like there's so much focus on who's ever in the jury and what they say, or in the panel and what they say and their opinions. And I don't know. It's
But you're right. It's usually the show revolves around the judges anyway,
yeah,
because they're the big personalities, and and I think it's led to some wonderful careers, but there must be some very disappointed and talented people, really talented people that haven't progressed through those competitions for
mm,
whatever reason. Maybe they didn't have a good story, or there was just somebody
good
very
point.
similar to them who did have a good story, and for whatever reason they didn't progress in the competition,
Mm,
and they like to sort of show talent winning, talent getting through, talent rising, and I don't think it always does. I think it's,
mm-mm.
I think it's sort of more produced than we sometimes think. um,
Absolutely. Have you ever thought of going on a show like that?
I, I I feel like I wouldn't want to put myself in the position where it'd be lovely to have such a large audience, something like X Factor. I mean, think how
Mm,
many people watch it. I mean, wow. But it would be really disheartening to have thought, you know, how hard and all the years you've worked on a
yeah.
career, and maybe no one turns around in The Voice, and you sort of have to think that I think there used to be more buzz around them when they were only out a few years. I think they created huge stars. I think now we've had so many of them. It's like, oh yeah,
Mm,
what year did that person win it? Was it last year or the year before? Who won it that year? Can't even remember. So
mm,
I don't know if they've got such the huge sway as they did.
mm.
um, I think they don't really like people who already have it as a career. I think it's a much better story if you're completely something else. If you're like an astronaut who can sing,
Right.
I think they much prefer that. I think it's quite boring to just go on as a, what do you do? Yeah, I'm a singer, and what you're going to do? I'm going to sing. Like, okay, um,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, sometimes you watch those programs and you think it must be really exciting. But I just don't think it's for me. I mean, what do you think? Would you ever do something like that?
Well, I have, but not like I did a similar show as the one you described, where they were looking for someone for a West End show,
Oh, wow.
actually.
Yeah.
But it was different because, I mean, first of all, I didn't want to do it, but it was for Spamalot in London,
Wow.
and they were
Wow.
looking, yeah, and they were looking for a new Lady of the Lake. and
Brilliant.
and they for some reason, I guess because there are a lot of Swedish people in London and a lot of Swedes traveling to London, so they thought having a Swedish Lady of the Lake would get the sales up for the theater. And so they created this TV show with the Swedish TV channel to find the next Lady of the Lake. And I didn't want, like, I wasn't planning on going because I was like, it's not for me. I don't want to do it. But then I got a call from one of the producers saying, we really want you to come and audition for the show because, you know, we can't get someone who's just completely inexperienced, because they have to be able to do 8 shows a week in London, so we can't just have anyone on the show. And we would really like to see an audition. And so I was like, oh, well, if nothing else, I'll get to sing in front of, these casting directors from London. And so I went, and I got, to the final 10 that was on the TV show. And it was like new competitions every
Wow.
week. And it was, I don't
That must
know.
have been amazing.
It really wasn't, to be
Was it
honest
not?
with
Was it quite a
you.
lot of pressure? And
It
did
was a
they?
lot of pressure. And it was, I felt like just what you described. I mean, it was like they had already set up like a plot for how it
Yeah.
was going to play out.
Yes.
And they were sort of manipulating the show in that direction, with everything from behind the scenes interviews, behind the scenes clips, how the panel judged us during the competition. I mean, I remember specifically um, one episode where they told two of the singers, like, oh, I would really like you to think about this and do your number like this week. We need to see this from you. And these were like really, really good singers and performers. And they were like, okay, taking notes, like we do. And they went on the live show, and they full out went into what they had been told that they wanted from them. And then when the panel was, coming with their feedback, they were completely shutting them down, like, oh, I didn't like that at all, why did you do this week? And
Oh, goodness.
it was not very kind.
That's not
And
kind.
no.
That's not kind at all. No,
And
because that's a total steering them in the wrong direction, and then
yeah,
that
because
being
they
the,
wanted a particular result.
of
And
course.
I mean, I felt like they sacrificed me in that show. um I think I was doing quite well in the competition, but then one week, it was in, because I think the show didn't get the ratings and that they were hoping for, so they needed to create drama for the show. And so one week there was this huge spread in one of the Swedish evening magazines, like tabloid magazines, where there was a picture of all of us and then this big arrow pointing at me, where it was like, she has already won the competition. And it's like, there's no point in voting because the British producers have already chosen Victoria for the show.
Oh
And
no.
like, oh, because I had played Christine in Phantom, so like, oh, she's already done big shows and she's already done 8 shows a week and blah 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 blah, so she's already won, there's no
Oh
point.
no.
And
That's
consequently, the same weekend I was voted off the show because no one voted for me. It
because
was
they
one.
thought they didn't have to. They were like,
Yeah.
she's safe,
Yeah.
she's fine. That
Mhm.
she this one's gonna win.
Yeah.
People love an underdog. As soon as you're
Yeah.
not the underdog, it's very hard because people just automatically assume you're safe.
Exactly. So I was so disappointed
I can imagine.
in finding out how things actually work, because it
Yeah.
wasn't a fair competition.
No,
And
and
I mean,
and
I'm
they
not
ask
saying
you to be part of it, and it's not.
right.
Yeah, so they
And they
ask.
sacrificed me for the
Yes.
drama. And that's how it is. And I do want to say though that puts no shade on the girl who won the competition. She
No,
did,
of course not.
she did really well, and that was great for her. But I was really bitter and sad
Yes.
after that
Yes, of
experience, and I
course.
actually stopped singing for almost 2 years. And it was not until I uh, together with my husband at the time, I'm divorced now, but um, that he said that, okay, so what can we do to get you singing again? Like, because I was literally depressed and so disappointed and bitter at the whole business. And that's when I recorded my first album. It was really just a way for him to try and helped me to get out of this hole that this show put me in. Um, and so something good came out of it, because I released my first album,
Yeah.
and you know, I got another perspective and another career and another leg to stand on, if you will. And I've been able to do some amazing things after that. I think I've released 3 full length albums, or maybe 4 if I count my Christmas album.
Oh,
Something,
fabulous.
yeah, something like that. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, and that was my first try, so to speak. It was an album in Swedish, and um, it did okay. It did okay, but it was more sort of, it was classical crossover, but more pop, I guess, in a
Yeah.
way. And then I steered more towards classical crossover, and that's when Dark Waltz happened, and
I
you know,
love that. It's amazing.
thank you. Yeah, so you know, but it took me quite a while to get out of that funk after that show, just finding out how cynical this business is, or
Yeah.
can be. So I don't know. I don't think that I would do something like that again. I would not put myself in that situation. And I think what really happened there and then as well was the fact that I decided that I don't ever again want to be or have my career or my life sort of dependent on someone else's decisions,
Oh,
or someone
totally.
picking me or saying that, oh, you
Yes.
know, you're good enough. No, I know I'm good enough, and I'm going to do this on my own. And that's scary. And I spoke to Mary Jess about it as well. And I'm pretty sure that you've experienced it as well. But it is hard to stand up and say that I'm good enough. You should give me a chance, and you should listen to me, and you know, put yourself out there, because it's always easier having someone else say, oh, look at her, she's amazing. But to say it for
For
yourself, like,
yourself.
listen to me, I'm good, it's
Yes.
really hard.
Yes. I think that's also, I don't know what it's like where you are, but oh gosh, in Britain, like
Mm.
modesty is such a thing. Like I'm
Here
always
as
really,
well.
I'm really shocked when Americans are like, I'm great, I'm clapping myself, I can do it. And they're like, yes, you can. I'm like, they're so supportive. Like
Yeah.
over here, what is wrong with us where it's considered, really like you have to sit there on social media thinking, right, what is the most modest way I can say, please take a look at this video?
You know what?
So
I've stopped now. I've stopped. I'm just like, go in and look at this, you know, interview show that I'm doing. You
yeah,
know, subscribe
yeah,
to my channel. Come on, guys, let's do it. Because no one else is going to do it for you, quite honestly. And it was really
yes,
interesting,
yeah, you're absolutely right.
because the first time I went to America to work, it was because Dark Walls got nominated for the Hollywood Music and Media Awards for
That sounds amazing.
yeah, for best classical that year. And
Wow,
I was really surprised when I got nominated, and I was like,
great.
we have to go. And I had just given birth to my son, so he was about 4 months old. I was still
Wow.
breastfeeding, and it's like, we're going, because this might be my only chance to ever walk the red carpet in Hollywood, so let's go.
Yeah.
And so me, my husband, our 2 kids, and my parents all
Wow.
went, because they came along to be babysitters when we
Amazing.
went to this thing. And I ended up winning with Dark Walls.
Yes.
And so that sort of opened a lot of doors for me in America. But my point
Great.
is that I thought everyone that I met during that week were like super mega amazing, because that's how they speak about themselves. You
I
know,
know,
they're
it's
like,
amazing.
oh, I'm a producer, and oh, I'm a singer, and I've done this and I've done that. And I'm like, I'm also a singer, and you know, no, but you know, like in Sweden, for example, if someone asked me, I mean, not anymore, because now I've thrown that out the window, but before, when I was still working on the whole modesty thing, and someone asked me, what like, can you mention something you've been in, or something you've done? I would say like, oh, I was in Phantom of the Opera, because people know Phantom of the Opera. And then they're like, oh, that's really cool. And if they would ask me what I did in Phantom of the Opera, I would tell them.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, I played the lead, Christine, in Phantom of the Opera. And that's something I learned in America.
And you know what? You saying it there it sounds completely perfect to me. You saying that. I think we're just conditioned to think, I've just sounded like I'm really boasting, and it's not. It's just a fact. And I think you're absolutely right about no one is going to do it for us. So to bang your own drum, I think, and also sometimes when I'm thinking, what's a good way of saying this? I'm really excited. If you have a moment, could you look at this? Yes. Or please take a look. Or this is cool. Why not check it out if you have a moment and you're not doing anything else? It's like, oh my God. But I think people perhaps would soon just not follow you if they're not down with that. And never mind. Maybe it's just the people. You see, this is where I sort of worry about doing that on, say, personal Facebook, only because I think some of them I don't know, I mean, gosh, Facebook's been around so long, you just collect people, don't you? And some of them are like, friends for life, and some of them are sort of more acquaintances, and you think, oh, they haven't really, it's not the same as following an artist's page, or maybe Twitter or Instagram, because they haven't sort of signed up for this, especially if you're seeing a whole feed of family life, and then you're like, look at my singing stuff. And also I've got people on my Facebook who are like doing amazing things and don't sort of tend to sort of shout about it. So I still feel quite, I do it at certain times, yeah. But
I also feel like it's because Facebook has changed. Like in the beginning, your artist page would get a lot more like views and stuff. Now you have to pay to get people to see what you're posting, which is really annoying.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the more people who follow you, the more they almost penalize you. I think if you have an artist page that haven't got that many, I think they don't mind. But I think they mistake you for like a big business you can afford to keep boosting or creating an advert. I totally agree. It's really difficult to get traction on an artist's page.
Yeah, and so I feel like Facebook has changed a lot for the worse, which means I'm now, like, I had your mindset before, because I also wanted to keep sort of my private page separate, because no one's really asked to see all I'm doing professionally on that page. But now I just don't care anymore. If you look, you look. If you don't, you don't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't post everything there. I'm spending more time on Instagram now, for example, and YouTube, because I feel like that's but I don't think Facebook is the same as it was 5 or 10 years ago. It's changed, and it's not really working as well anymore. So I don't know, but I feel like in the last, at least say 3-4 years, it's massively changed.
Yeah, I agree.
You can use your page, like fan page on
Facebook.
I
completely agree. And I think the culture is different with Instagram. Nobody judges you. It's almost like Instagram is made for going, look what I'm doing, and everyone just goes, yeah, of course. Like, nobody would bat an eyelid. Instagram is the edited shiny highlights of what's happening, whereas I think as well Facebook is that I think they're trying to go back to the roots of it, that it's, for friends, and businesses have taken it over. Well, that's what they're saying, but then it's the businesses that are paying them the money, which is why they're getting advertising. So I'm going to do a little experiment. I'm going to be much more, look at this, see what happens. Inspired by you.
Let's try it and see what happens. Because it's also really interesting how they are penalizing YouTube on Facebook, because it's
I've heard about this. Is it right? Unless you pay, that they don't really like to show a YouTube link. They much rather have the Facebook video.
They want you to upload the video directly to Facebook.
You see, that's what I've always done. And
The problem with that, though, I feel, is that I'm not getting any traction on my artist page on Facebook. So I need to get my audience to come to my YouTube.
yes,
And so what I do now, for everyone who's listening, I will put like a shorter, like for this interview show, for example, I will make a shorter trailer for about like a minute and a half, that I will put on Instagram or Facebook, and then tell people to come and see the whole thing on YouTube, because there's no point whatsoever to put like my whole show on Facebook. It's not going to get me any money, any customer, like nothing. But if you can get people to come to your YouTube channel, then there's a chance to at least, monetize it a bit. That's how it is. So maybe we should do like a whole social media tutorial thing about like, this is what we figured out so far.
it's what we have figured out by trial and error. The other thing is, I think about social proof, about putting the videos just playing in Facebook, which is what I've always done. It's quite nice. If people have come over to your YouTube, then those statistics, they stay, and then they go up and up and up. So someone might think, oh, that's got a few thousand views, must be worth clicking on. Whereas it sort of disappears on Facebook. It might stay in your videos, but is anybody going to go to artist page, click on videos, look at the video history, go, do any of them look good? I'm not so sure.
Yeah. So I don't think that Facebook is doing so well at the moment. Like I wouldn't, if I look at the business side of it, I would not invest money in buying Facebook stock at the moment, for example, or Facebook shares, because unless they start changing it back to where it was, interesting for people, I don't think it's going to survive. Because right now, it's not really a place where you can hang out with your friends, as you did in the beginning. And it's not really that, it's not really making any profit for businesses either. So I feel like right now they're going down a rabbit hole that I'm not liking. So I've moved more towards YouTube and Instagram, but we'll see what happens. I mean, social media is ever changing. And
it is. I even wrote my last classical crossover magazine column. It just inspired me. Social media for a classical singer, friend or foe. And I wrote sort of all about what sort of my thoughts. It was sort of more about as well how to, not only how to sort of use it, for like monetization or anything like that, but just sort of like engagement in general, really, and how I think it has really changed. And there's things now like cancel culture, where you see like one person says something ill-judged and that's it, and you think, oh gosh, deleted forever, and it just feels like a big, sometimes, responsibility as well, how you put things across. I don't know about you, but do you ever feel like it's sort of super important to get back to people sort of straight away for sort of like fan engagement and building the algorithms? And there's
I've been trying. Sometimes I find it hard just because of time management. I am also a mother, and
exactly.
I have a billion things to do. I try, and I especially try to respond to all the nice comments or nice people in some way. Sometimes it might just be liking it, or just, in some way showing that I've seen it and I appreciate you. And I try to answer, if there is specific questions or things like that. But, there's not enough hours in a day to do it if you have several social media platforms going on at the same time. It's just not possible. So what is your future looking like? What are your plans going forward now? Are you recording something again? What's happening?
Well, because lockdown at the moment, I literally have no idea. But then this time last year, I had no idea. And I really feel like last year, professionally, was like one of my best years. And it was very unexpected and not 100% by design, just sort of happened. So I have no idea whether this year will be the same, or whether I really, really don't know. I'd love to do some more recording, but I just don't know if that's going to be possible. I don't know if live performances are going to be possible. Because of the World in Union release last year, I sort of had more publicity than I've ever had with any of my other releases, because the Sergeant Matt Ratana and his tragic death was a news story. It sort of carried on from a legitimate news story, which meant for the first time the song was brought up twice on BBC Breakfast and a few times in the Southeast News, and he won the Unsung Hero Award on BBC Sports Personality of the Year. There was sort of so much going on with it because that was about him, and I was sort of asked to come on board, and it was a whirlwind. But that was that sort of like a once in a lifetime of opportunity. I think that was very lucky, sort of came last year. So yeah, I have no idea. I really have enjoyed writing my column for Classical Crossover magazine. I really have. And it's got me thinking more about the whole sort of broadcasting sort of vibe, and about how that can profile raise in the same way as sort of like, you know, releasing albums. I think the dream would be to sort of continue profile raising, so that each time I sort of release something, it can be bigger and better and enjoyed by more people. Yeah. I think that's sort of the aim.
So I will put all your information in the description of the video. So if you want to go and find more information about Joanna Forest and her music, you will find it in the description. I wish you all the best of luck. I hope that we can get together soon, either for a concert or, you know, to record something, or, you know, just be creative in some way or another. I have already received some material that I'm going to use in one of my tutorials. So thank you. Yeah. And yeah, take care and don't go crazy in lockdown. And all the best of luck with all your projects. And thank you so much for being part of Tocca Talks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay!
Thank you.